Welcome to our next battle report, folks, and it's the Soviet side of the Kursk campaign that we're looking at today. So the Soviets are going to be the attackers and the Germans are going to be the defenders. Now we know the Germans have had a hard time attacking, so let's see if the Soviets have a hard time attacking. I kind of feel that they will. We're going to be playing the mission No Retreat, so it's a sort of full head-on clash between attacker and defender with minefields, and it's going to be tricky to say the least for my Soviets. Let's start with the German list. Now, Brian's put together a really well balanced list, I think. It's based on Grenadiers out of Iron Cross, otherwise it's Ghost Panzers, though a lot of this stuff can be found in both books. So the infantry company is a corps formation. It's 2 platoons of 7 bases and 6 mortars, and then in support they've got 4 Marders, so there's 8 dice of anti-tank 12, 3 Pak 40s, which is 6 dice of anti-tank 12, and then a medium Panzer platoon with 2 Panzer 4s and 2 Panzer 3s, so that's 4 dice of anti-tank 11 and 4 dice of anti-tank 9 just in case he needs them. So that's quite a nasty force for taking on tanks. So I've not got an entirely tank type force here. I've got a mixture of everything. The corps formation is a hero motor rifle platoon, 3 platoons of 10 bases plus commissars in each platoon. That's corps formation. And then also 3 mortars, 3 heavy mortars, and then 6 T-34s. That's corps formation again because you got a tank platoon. And then in support they've got 4 T-70s. I deliberately chose some light tanks. I think they might be useful when attacking. And then they've got this artillery pack here, 4 Katyushas and 4 122 mils. Now you know, or you may not know, you may have seen the previous games where we've used Soviet effectively conscript infantry that they struggle to range in, but in this game I will have the advantage of ranged in markers at the start, and I know where my objectives are going to be, so they might not have to lift, we'll see, but they might not have to lift our ranged in markers and then roll to range in again. If they do have to roll to range in again with the terrain all over the place here, they'll be needing 6s except for the Katyushas. So there you go, folks. Germans defending this time, Soviets on the attack. Mission is No Retreat, and we'll come back when we have set everything up and we're ready to start. So here's a little reminder of the mission. You can see special rules are ambush, and that's going to be the Pak 40 platoon, and deep immediate reserves, so the Marders can be on the table, the Panzer 3s and 4s will be off, and that's a 43 point platoon, so it's a good split in terms of reserves and what's on the table. And then you can see this is where I'm attacking from, Brian's defending there, so just imagine it on the table in reverse. You can see that area with the white dice, that's where the objectives need to be. I've got one there, and Brian placed one right in the middle of that church. Then Brian's put minefields down here. You can see he's really trying to restrict the movement of my tanks and funnel me away from the objective or into cross checks, which might not go very well for me. I could easily have a few tanks left behind. And then he's placed his ranged in marker for his mortars here. I placed all of mine around here. You can see that's ordinary mortars, heavy mortars. That is actually supposed to be on top, but it keeps sliding off. That's 122 mils, and that is the Katyushas. So Brian has set his mortars up here. they can see left to right to one degree or another, and they've got a second in command in the church steeple to, or is it a spire in Russia, for a good line of sight. Company command is down there. Got one platoon over here. He's just decided he doesn't want to be under this at the start, and I don't blame him. And then he's placed his other platoon back here in a position to move towards that objective or that one as required. And the Marders are back here to see what direction they need to go in. And as I said, Panzer 3s and 4s plus Pak 40s in ambush and reserve. So I've got my mortars here. Company command is here. One platoon, two platoons, and they're going to move off up that direction. Tank platoons here, another platoon here, and you know, I may well have. I suppose I could have started in there and just moved off, but I want a little bit flank attack going on, and then a massive artillery park here with some good line of sight across that hill and across the terrain there. So we're ready to start, and we'll be back after the Soviets' first turn. Before we go over to Soviet turn 1, I just thought I'd show you this turn counter. You will see me using this and the other circular one that I've got in other battle reports. It's quite easy to make, to be honest. It looks really fancy and complex, but there's not a lot to it. Just a bit of milliput in the main and some scraps. I'll put a link up at the end to the video where I put all this together, so just if you're interested you can have a little look. So Soviet turn 1. So what happened there? It was lots of movement. These guys all dashed and followed me. They've got some pretty good cover to keep them safe from direct fire. Though mortar fire, they're going to be very, very vulnerable. The T-70s just charged right up, get in the face of the enemy, which is what I want them for. These guys are a wee bit cautious, whilst I try and flush out Brian's ambush and such likes. And then as far as firing goes, it was just the artillery, and the mortars I've left ranged in here. There's nothing under the templates, but this is my main focus, this objective marker. So I'm going to keep the mortars where they are. The Katyushas lifted and the 122s lifted. The Katyushas needed a 5 to range in but didn't. The 122s needed a 6 but did. And I've ranged in over here. You'll notice I didn't range in to catch as many of the platoon as possible. I put it so that if anything moves over this way, then they're still going to be underneath that template plus these mortars. I'm basically trying to win the game with my artillery, or at least severely weaken Brian's force with my artillery. So that's it for Soviet turn 1. So over to the Germans, where they can think about ambushes and start rolling for reserves. German turn 2, they didn't pop their ambush, didn't get reserves, managed to unpin the platoon of infantry that was hit by the mortars, and they've, by the 122s rather, they've backed off, just trying to get themselves in a position behind here. They've got these guys who can still protect the church, and then Brian's decided he's got these mobile long-ranged weapons here. He tried to follow me, he dashed and tried to follow me. The follow me didn't work, but that hill might be a juicy target for them. He can hit me at a range I cannot direct fire back at him. So not too much there. Oh, the mortars, sorry. He fired his mortars, they ranged in over here, right in the middle of this lump here. They hit all but 3 of the bases, but only one of them failed its save, so that was quite good on my part. But they are pinned. We'll have to see if they unpin. So over to Soviet turn 2. Soviet turn 2. So in this turn, the infantry that were hit by the mortars unpinned and moved up, spread himself out a bit, some in and some outside his houses. T-70s took a tactical move. T-34s blitzed up behind there. These infantry followed me, did a dash and followed me. These guys did a dash but never managed to follow me. The commander's gone, comrades, where are you? And as far as shooting goes, these were interested in having a go at that guy. 3 of them had range in line of sight. actually managed to get a hit, but he rolled a 6 for his save, so they're only anti-tank 7, so with range, etc., it bounced. And then these guys had a go at the Marders. They both managed to range in. The Katusha did it in the second attempt, hit a couple and managed to just bail one. It rolled a 1 for its save, then I failed my firepower. And then the 1-2-2s ranged in first time, rolled a 1, a 2, a 2 and a 3. So that could have been really punishing with anti-tank. 3 on the top armour, 0. So they have survived the scare, and I think Brian will probably want to get them the hell out of dodge or go on the offensive. Got those T-34s over there, but we'll see. They're probably a bit more survivable with a bit of support. But it is looking a bit scary for the Germans in terms of how much stuff's coming at them, but I still have to shift them. I've not actually done any damage yet, not really. So over to German turn 2. So German turn 2, the bailed Marder didn't get back in, didn't pop his ambush, but he did get his reserves. So he's brought the Panzer 4s and 3s on here. Is off a mind to try and hold this objective with tanks. Might work, might not work. But he's still got infantry close by. These guys have stayed put, the other guys have moved back into the church to kind of feel exposed. If they move over here, they're potentially going to get in the way of the tanks or get shot in the open as they're trying to prepare for this horde of infantry. And then as far as firing goes, Brian ranged in here, first time, hit all but 3 of the bases, but I've saved everyone. Over here though, the Marders, like I said, he was in two minds about being defensive or offensive, so he's decided to be offensive. He's got to come out of these ranged in markers anyway. He's got a 32-inch range, so he's out of range of retaliatory fire here, and he's managed to kill and bail one T-34 straight away. They're so easy to hit, so that puts me in a really, really tight spot. I have to deal with those Marders in some way, or my T-34s are going to get whittled down to nothing in a very, very short time. So there you go, Brian's starting to kill my tanks, and he's really just got to pop his ambush, then everything will be committed. Soviet turn 3. So in that turn the T-34 didn't get back in. These guys didn't unpin but dug in. These guys here moved across to threaten this objective, and this objective is now well and truly threatened because the guys in the building are within 4 inches of it. The T-70s moved up to get flanking shots on the Marders. 2 of them failed a cross-check, so, and when they did shoot, they missed everything. The medium mortars managed to range in the church and kill 2 bases, which is quite effective. The T-34s, by the way, just kind of tried to hide themselves a bit, and then this infantry platoon, under some artillery cover fire, moved up against the Marders. The Katyushas had to range in all the way over here to keep the template away from the approaching infantry. It's a millimetre kind of measurement, to be honest. They managed to hit this and failed its save, and got bailed out, kind of failed my firepower, but it got bailed out, which put it in a very difficult position. These guys launched an assault that way and that way using the hurrah special rule, and they lost 1 base to counterfire. Actually, he shouldn't be there, he's lost to counterfire, but they got in, which meant these guys were out with 4 inches. It meant the assault ended, and the 2 Marders were lost, which is a sore one. They're quite mobile though, so it depends what Brian wants to do next, run away or keep going on the offensive. But that's a good one for me, a bad one for Brian. And now it's going to come down to that there. He's got to move in and counter-attack me. So we'll see what Brian does in his third turn. So German turn 3, they popped their ambush here, and that allowed the Panzer IVs and 3s to move up around this side of the building, with this side being covered against the tanks. The Marders were kind of between a rock and a hard place. I could chase after them with infantry for just about anywhere they moved, so they decided to move over here and get some shots on the T-34s. So as far as why in these infantry, I've kind of snaked around from there with a successful follow me to threaten, to pretend to get that objective. So as far as shooting goes then, these guys were under a ranged in mortar barrage, but only lost to one base. Remarkable saves. The company command got plastered with 3 hits, made all saves. These got 4 hits, made all saves. That was from the Panzer 3s and 4s. And then the Pak 40s, one could see that and managed to kill it, and the other ones could see them, just managed to bail them. And in the Marders, could see one tank over here, this one here, managed to bail it. I tried to jump over to there, but it didn't work. But it was a bail anyway, so it's still alive, but there's only 2 tanks functional in that T-34 platoon. And I will need them, I think, to try and shift these guys, otherwise I'll just get shot to bits and counter fire. Try to take that objective. So, Germans looking a wee bit more solid, but I've still got a chance to do a bit of damage to them. See what I do in turn 4. Soviet turn 4. So in that turn, one T-34 didn't get back in, one T-70 didn't get back in, these guys unpinned, and then I kind of opened up a can of whoop-ass on Brian that turn, as you can see with all the red counters everywhere. So my artillery, I managed to range in the Katyushas, and I managed to range in the heavy mortars. The medium mortars stayed where they were. So combination of heavies and Katyushas managed to take out 3 bases of infantry from this platoon. Oh no, one of them actually got shot by these guys. So 2 got killed, but ranged in, severely ranged in there. Over here, the artillery did not kill anybody, but hit them and pinned them. And then all these bases, all these casualty markers you can see were all caused by assaults. My guys got in, took quite a few hits on the way in, but made all the saves, not enough to pin me down. And they killed everyone in the church but one. He's now back here. And the mortars got attacked from the flank. One got killed and then they broke off. So I'm well in control of this objective now. Brian will have to get within 4 inches of it next turn to stay in the game. This one here, these guys are part of that platoon. They kind of got split up. Company command here, and then this platoon's. So they're facing a wall of armour. Oh, incidentally, the T-34s moved up. Fired as best they could, got 1 hit, failed at save, but only got a bail. And I've just ignored the Marders. So currently I've only got my 122s not ranged in, though the mediums will have to lift. But I'll have to see if Brian can do anything meaningful to hold on to the church. So we'll come back for the German turn 4. So in the German turn we did a bit of calculation and you couldn't get anybody over there meaningfully. He could fling his mortars in, but I would just kill them next turn. So we're just seeing if Brian could wipe anything out, and he's managed to clobber them severely. So that was the Pak 40s who never unpinned, and one of the Panzer IVs, the other one, in fact, let's just say moves the other one in front of that bailed one. Might as well, gets another hit. I roll a 2 for a save, and he passes 5 power, so there's only one T-34 left alive in that platoon. The Panzer III never bailed in. His Marders managed to kill and bail a T-70. So we're just going to see if those platoons run away from working out victory points. So the T-34s, he's got to try and get back in first. He rolls a 6, and if he stays, he rolls a 6, so he's staying. The T-70s, see if the survivor gets back in. I roll a 5, see if he stays. It's a cock dice, and I roll a 5, so they never run away. And there's one T30, one T70 bailed, one which is still active. So that was a bit of a quicker game than I expected, folks. We'll go over to the recap and try and figure out what went well and what went wrong. Well, that game was a bit shorter than our usual. We never usually have that much done by turn 4 in our games. It was interesting for a couple of things other than the fact it was a bit shorter than normal, and that was the Soviet list with all that artillery. It's really quite cheap Soviet artillery, so you can get quite a lot of it, and you can see as an attacker you can really dominate one of the objectives, and Brian just wasn't sure how he was going to deal with that, just placing all his infantry in position and hope they didn't get blown to bits or stand off the objective, and that had an influence on the game because he had to move things to cover that objective, as he wasn't able to fight from the objective, he had to fight to it, which left the other objective perhaps a bit lacking in support. And as you point out, these videos, we recorded them all sort of binge recording, so to speak, over a couple of weekends, and I've been putting them up as weeks go by. And Dean Marcus, apologies if that's pronounced incorrectly, put a comment on the last video when I was talking about the difficulties of ranging in with Soviet artillery. He said, why not use the company commander if he's got a better skill? I've not checked it if that is the case, with the hero formations, but they may well be trained. I think they are. I don't think they're green, which means something like the 122mm battery could have him ranging it in to really bring the pain, and much better than ranging in on a 6, for instance, against terrain if you're ranging in on a 5, so that's a really good shout. So one other thing to note from that is how fast you can get moving, partly because of the terrain in that game, partly because one of Brian's defensive platoons was further back and a bit more out of the way. My infantry really flew up the table and moved at quite a speed. And then these hero units, once they get into assault, if you can get them in, they really hammer the opposition. So, an interesting game. Good to see the Soviets attacking. It wasn't a walkover, as many of the Soviet attacks have been for us in the past. But it was a bit of a walkover for the Germans, and a bit of a tough nut to crack. How do you defend in those situations? You've got 4 ranged in markers on the target objective. How do you defend against that? Any ideas, any good suggestions, folks, stick them down in the comments and I'll come back to them. And the next game and the last game is going to be another Soviet attack against Germans. This time it's going to be, what do they call it now? Do they call it fighting withdrawal or strategic withdrawal? I can't remember now. But it's going to be the Germans trying to pull back. We've never played this mission in version 4. It's different from version 3, and it was a really interesting game. So stay tuned for that, and thanks again for watching, folks.